Hello, my name is Orlando Torresia from thinkistorresia.com. Well, I'm going to tell you an anecdote that happened at the notary's office, where we were providing advice on a property sale. Well, the seller was a very elderly gentleman, and, of course, with the authority and, let's say, freedom that comes with age, he was speaking with the notary. And, well, during their conversation, he said, well, the notary nowadays doesn't have much influence because the one who is in charge is the registrar. And, of course, there was a debate between the notary, the seller, and myself. And, of course, what the notary said is that the registrar's role is to register what the notary signs. And, of course, the elderly gentleman, with his freedom, told him that, well, he believed that this was not the case. And really, it is not the case. Because the registrar may refuse to register something in a deed if they see something they consider incorrect. In other words, just because the notary drafts a deed, it does not necessarily mean it will be registered in the land registry. This is very important, and people need to be aware of it, because, regarding the registrar's assessment, well, all of this can be looked up online at the General Directorate of Registries and Notaries. Because if the registrar issues a negative assessment, meaning they refuse to register, the notary can file an appeal with the General Directorate of Registries and Notaries, or the person interested in registering the document. But, of course, it is very important to be aware of this, because the key issue here is knowing what the notary is going to draft, and knowing whether the registrar will register it. In normal cases, with very simple matters, nothing happens at all. But there are many cases involving separations, joint property, inheritances, people who have signed contracts, verbal ratifications, and ultimately, things that the registrar may refuse to register. So, it is very important that there is someone, because, of course, the notary does not ask the registrar, hey, are you going to register this? This thing we are writing here, in this deed, are we going to register it? No, that does not happen. The notary drafts the deed, and then it remains to be seen whether it gets registered or not. For example, recently, not long ago, the notary did not correctly identify the address of one of the sellers who was signing through a power of attorney with a relative. And, of course, the relative had not mentioned that this person lived abroad. So, the notary did not properly identify that there was a non-resident living abroad. If that deed is later sent to the registry, the registrar will probably not register it, and that is because it has a defect, which is correctable, of course. It can be rectified, it can be, well, practically everything can be corrected. But, of course, it is important to know that not everything the notary does. As this notary said, that everything the notary writes, the registrar registers. That is not true. So, this gentleman, who brought up this issue, this very elderly client, over 80 years old, with his freedom and that lack of fear that comes with age, or the lack of, well, prudence, has said this. And, of course, he brought up this issue. We wanted to share it with you. Well, until the next videos, God willing. Best regards, Orlando Torresia. Thank you.